why this? So, good morning everyone. Welcome to 23rd December. I hope everyone is doing really very well. Okay, so welcome to 23rd December and I hope everyone is doing really very well. Good morning everyone. Start of a new week and we are in the last week of this year. So 23rd has started, 7 or 8 days more and this year would end and the new year will start. I hope in 2024 you have been able to achieve a lot. If you're a student who's preparing for the next year exams in the terms of preparation, in terms of revision, in terms of your growth, because certain times you will feel that the other student is far ahead of you. You need to compare yourself with yourself. You need to compare you with yourself. Where were you 6 months back, 8 months back, and how did you progress? And if you have not been able to progress, then it is definitely you need to work even more harder and push yourself towards your goal. So with this wonderful thought, sir, sound is low. Sound is low. We are working. Okay, we'll just increase the sound. Good morning, good morning. I think sound is fine, but we'll just increase a little bit for you guys. I think it is fine, but since you are saying, we'll just increase a little bit. Hello, hello. I think it should be better now. I'm sure you are comfortable with the current, the audio quality and the sound. So with this, so you know, if you've not been able to work and what your intended goals, keep working hard. The magic will happen. The magic happens for that person who keeps working. So with this wonderful thought, the thought for the day is action is. Okay. Action is a foundational key to success, Pablo Picasso. So again, that's what I said, that if you have been continuously working hard over the years, putting your action, putting your effort to achieve what you are intending. I always say, like, if you make a 100% plan or a timetable, and even if you're able to achieve 70 to 75% of the target in a long marathon run like UPSC, it will eventually give you the result. To achieve every day 100 targets is a very difficult, and we also need to understand that your preparation will always go like crest and troughs. Obviously, at one point of time, it will go very high, but it is important that you maintain the momentum. Every day studying, for example, your goal is that every day I'll give 8 hours to my, and you continuously give 8 hours, that will fetch you a much better result than that you study for 10 or 12 hours for 2 days and then you don't study for the coming 4 or 5 days or a week. So in that way, consistency is important, actions are important, and if you keep putting your action, the magic will definitely happen. Okay. I think a little bit of light is less. Okay, I hope so that let me know if it is better now. Okay. Let me just. Okay, so let's just talk about the OGP batch. OGP batch would be starting on 2nd January 2025. OGP 2026 batch. This is under the guidance of Vinay sir, who is the founder and director of Insights IAS. This batch will comprise GS, CSAT, and SA. And for all details, you can also call on this number 8069 40 5205, and also you can scan the QR code for all details. So with this, let's move to the important news for today. That is India-Kuwait elevates strategic partnership. So Prime Minister has been given the highest honor from this country. We'll talk about it. India cannot be intimidated to confirm, says External Affairs Minister Jaishankar sir, he has been given an award, and there his speech was there in which he has spoken about what are India's intention when it comes to geopolitics and what is our thought process. So what External Affairs Minister is saying, those are direct quotes which you can use for your UPSC mains examination also. Are Manipur militant using Starlink device? This has been in a lot of news. What is a Starlink device and how did these Manipuri militants or the militants out there, they were able to get it, the militants from the Myanmar base or the Manipur base. It's a Meitei based militant group. We'll talk about it and what can be the threats because of this satellite based internet services, and is Starlink allowed in India or not. Then in prelims device decode, we'll talk about Starlink device pointing the beacon at the India's undersea warfare power. In the last 1 year of 2024, the naval capabilities have increased like anything. We'll decode what are these important naval capabilities which have increased and how they are important for all of us. Yes, Kishan, you can buy that book. That book is available offline. So you can come to the office and you can buy. So, and rest for more details, you can also call on the number which I have told you. So if it is available online, you can also call on that number for all details. Offline, it is available at the Hyderabad office. Sorry, at the Bangalore office, Bangalore main headquarters office of Insights. Okay. So now coming to this, and I'm very sure that you can get it through the online methods and other methods also. Just call on the number for all details. So India and Kuwait ties to strategic partnership. You know that we were covering India and Kuwait. You know that very well. Prime Minister was on a 2-day visit to there. Second important thing was that this visit is happening after more than 43 years. Okay, and most important part is that the last visit happened by the late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ji. That happened in 1981. Now it is happening in 2024. So more than 43 years have passed, and this also shows that a good amount of political will was required to do it, and finally it has happened. And Kuwait and India has a very long relationship. Till 1961, Indian rupee was a legal tender in Kuwait, and Kuwait and India share a good cultural, economic, strategic relationship also. Kuwait is also very important because currently it is holding the chairmanship of Gulf Cooperation Council, and we are trying to have a free trade agreement FTA with Gulf Cooperation Council, and Kuwait being on the chairmanship, and India-Kuwait good relationship will definitely put India's case in a much better way. In this context, what is the geographical position of Kuwait? We have discussed in the last lecture also that we were doing on Saturday. I keep telling you, wherever the Prime Minister is traveling, External Affairs Minister is traveling, or for that matter, National Security Advisor, President are traveling, these places become very, very important for all of us from the point of view geography-based prelims question. So this is your Kuwait, which you can see. And if we see the neighbors are, Iraq is a neighbor and Saudi Arabia is the neighboring countries to this, and rest of the countries which you can see, Bahrain is here, Qatar, Dubai, UAE, Dubai, Muscat, and the Oman is here. This is your Persian Gulf and this is your Gulf of Oman. Very important location from the point of view of gas and oil coming from these places, and we know that 85% of India's gas and oil needs are being done by imports, and UAE has also put its strategic reserves in India. In this context, Kuwait might also do. So a lot of things happen between India and Kuwait. Kuwait's capital is called Kuwait City. This is your capital of Kuwait. Okay, capital. A UPSC prelims question can also come, where are Boubian Islands? Okay, where are Boubian Islands? These are your Boubian Islands. Okay, so these are certain important locations which tend to come in the news, and then prelims based MCQ question or geography based question can come. Okay. IS Babu, you've put question marks, but what is your question? I didn't understand. Can you put your question, then I will understand what is your question. So in this context, moving further, what is the current news? So it's a continuation of what happened on Saturday, and then we are covering it. So what kind of deals happened between India and Kuwait? What kind of cooperation happened? The Prime Minister has been given one of the highest honors, or rather the highest honor, which is called Mubarak Al-Kabir Order. Mubarak Al-Kabir Order, it's Kuwait's highest honor, and it was given by Amir of Kuwait, Sheikh Mehshad Al Ahmad Al Jaber Al Sabah. Now Amir is the most important office. It's still the monarchy, and it is the most important office in the highest authority in Kuwait, and he gave this important award, the highest honor, called Mubarak Al-Kabir order. So in the recent 1 year, if you see, or even in recent years, if you see, Prime Minister Modi has got multiple times these highest honors from multiple countries. So their question can also come, which particular award belongs to which particular country, like Russia, France, all these awards can come, and similarly from Kuwait. And this also award shows that the kind of relationship India and Kuwait is having, and how India is focusing on Middle East. The Prime Minister had multiple tours in, in West Asia. If I talk about multiple visits in UAE, I think around 2 visits in Saudi Arabia also. So kind of lot visits have happened if I talk about the last few years. So India and Kuwait have elevated their bilateral relationship to a status of strategic partnership, and Prime Minister 2-day visit to the Gulf nation. Whenever a Prime Minister is visiting a country, either it can be a comprehensive economic agreement, strategic partnership agreement, or a free trade agreement. These are the agreements which happen on that time. Obviously, a lot of hard work goes prior to this by Finance Ministry, External Affairs Ministry, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Home Affairs. Every ministry works so that these deals can be finalized, because when Prime Minister goes, most of these deals are already finalized. It is the final stamp which happens by the Prime Minister. Okay. So Mubarak Al-Kabir order, please remember this. This can come in your examination. Key agreements were based on exchange of defense personnel, joint military exercises, and supply of military equipment can happen. The supply of military equipment from India towards the Kuwaiti side. And as you know that India's exports in defense exports are increasing like anything. We are working on their targets. We have already sold more than $1 billion of defense exports, and now if we are able to sell our defense exports or our defense equipments to these countries, it will fetch us more money also. So from the point of view of the dollars exchange, foreign exchange, and everything, it becomes very good for us. So agreement of facilities, exchange of defense personnel, joint military exercise, more cohesiveness in defense. And the other part is that Pakistan always used to say that Saudi, UAE, Kuwait, all these are Islamic countries and they will favor Pakistan. In today's reality is very different, because all these countries, rather than religion, are focusing on the economic well-being of their people and economic growth of their countries. From Saudi, UAE and Kuwait, it is very much clear. So in that ways, India's cohesiveness in terms of trade and everything is very good. So it aims to institutionalize defense cooperation, enhancing collaboration. So more military exercises are expected, defense personnel exchange are expected in coming days. So another MOU was signed for strengthening cultural ties, sports cooperation, and people-to-people cooperation. Whenever people-to-people cooperation happens, like people in India are very, like if you generally ask most of the mass population of India, they tend to think very positively about Russia. Similarly, if you go to Afghanistan, most population, much of the population of Afghanistan is very pro-India. They think India is a friend. So when people-to-people exchanges become better, or they go each other, they understand each other culture, then what happens? More bonhomie happens, and people-to-people interaction and bonhomie and more friendship will always lead to better strategic relationship also. Like we can see in the case of France, like we can see in the case of Russia also. So establishment of more joint working groups. So what happens is that when the Prime Minister meeting happens, now the next meeting might happen after 2 years, 4 years or 6 years. Now in this gap of 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, it is not that every, when the next time the meeting will happen, then they will start working. So once this meeting is over, small joint working groups are created from Kuwait side also and from Indian side also. And for the next 2-3 years, when the next important meeting happens, they will keep working for important deals or what important cooperation has happened. They will complete those. Okay, they will start completing those and start working on new goals also. For example, first is defense cooperation. Once the defense cooperation happens, then they probably work on economic cooperation and then on social cooperation, whatever be the agendas. So these are joint working groups. When the main meeting has ended, then they will implement what was discussed in the meeting and what agreements happened. And once those implementations are over, then they will start working on the next part. Like all these agreements which was signed, this was previously worked by different other groups, and now the culmination of those the effort is these agreements. So establishment of JWGs would be done. So this would be based on trade, investment, education, technology, agriculture, security and culture. Already JWGs were for their health, manpower and hydrocarbons. These three were already there. So we are increasing joint working groups so that in these particular areas, that is trade, investment, education, technology, agriculture, security and culture, more and more comprehensiveness, cohesiveness comes between India and Kuwait in terms of trade, economy, technology, and many other things. Okay. So in this context, we move forward discussions. Meeting with Kuwaiti leaders, PM held discussions with Amir of Kuwait and Prime Minister of Kuwait, Sheikh Ahmed Al Abdullah Al Ahmed Al Sabah. So he was the Prime Minister, but again I told you Amir is the most highest authority, the most important office. It's a monarchy which is in Kuwait. Topics included pharmaceutical, IT, financial technology, infrastructure and security, and economic opportunities. If you remember, in the last lecture, we spoke something about called KIA, that is Kuwaiti Investment Authorities. Now, these people have more than $900 billion or very much close, I think around $925 billion. If you add some more $billion, close to $1 trillion of sovereign wealth fund. Now, India wants that they invest these funds in Indian's defense sector and other sectors. Indirectly, they have invested around $10 billion, but that is very less, the kind of funds they have. So we want that Kuwaiti Investment Authority explore opportunities with India in energy, defense, medical devices, pharma and food parks, that they come and invest in India. Obviously, when Indian Prime Minister in India, most important dignitaries and top people go to all these countries, from Nigeria to Guyana to Rio to everyone, we do our homework, like what can be the quid pro quo, what can be the barter system. Obviously, it is not that you will always get 50-50, sometimes you will get 40, you will give 60, sometimes you will give 30 and you will get 70. Because when you talk about geopolitics and diplomacy, there is no end game in this. Please remember, when you talk about geopolitics and diplomacy, there is no end game in this. Because they always say, there are no permanent friends and there are no permanent enemies. Only thing which is constant is permanent interest. So there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies, only permanent interest. And India-China current relationship is one of the best example to tell you that. Okay, so this we had discussed in the last class. Okay, they have close to $924 billion. I was saying 925. So in this context, we had covered this in Saturday class, and we have done an editorial also on the Kuwait and the Prime Minister visiting. So I hope that you can go and revise from that also. So interaction with Indian workers, the Prime Minister also went to Gulf Spik labor camp, because the expatriate population in Kuwait is a lot, which has given to a lot of development of Kuwait, and Kuwait authorities and the Indian Prime Ministers welcomed that. Meeting with translators of Indian epics, this happened, and a lot of videos on Instagram was circulating regarding this. Prime Minister met Abdullah Al Baroon. Okay, Abdullah Al Baroon has translated Ramayan, and Abdullah Latif Al Nisib has translated Mahabharat into Arabic. So if they have translated Ramayan and Mahabharat into Arabic, reflecting the cultural and historical connection with the two actions. And some of them were singing that also. So this shows, kinds of cohesiveness, understanding of each other's culture, and going through our important epics and, learning from them, or the population, when they'll get in Arabic, they will also understand it. So this wonderful arrangements, these wonderful things happened. Now, what is the significance of the visit? Kuwait is an energy-rich Gulf nation. It's the part of GCC. It's holding the chairmanship of GCC, and India is looking for an FTA. So in all these terms, from energy, chairmanship, Kuwait is having KIA with more than $924 billion of funds investment in India. So obviously, all this strategically, quid pro quo, barter, everything is good from that. And this is PM first visit to Kuwait, making a landmark moment in the bilateral relationship, because this visit is happening after 43 years. Earlier, it was expected to happen in 2022, but it could not happen because of COVID. Okay. So recognition of India's friendship, Mubarak Al-Kabir order obviously recognizes India's efforts, India's people. PM dedicated the honor to people of India, and robust partnership, historical and cultural ties goes back. Even when, Kuwait got independence, India was one of the few countries to recognize. And I told you, India's rupee was a legal tender in Kuwait. So long time relationship, with India they have. So friendly policy towards India, and this visit reinforces long-standing goodwill and cultural ties. So it's a wonderful thing which has happened between India and Kuwait. India's relationship with Saudi is strong, UAE is strong. Multiple visits by India has been done to these countries, and over a period of time, things would be getting only better. So analyze the significance. This is the question. I think we can do for 10 words and 110 marks and 150 words. Let's move to the next important news which is coming. that is, India cannot be intimidated to confirm, says Jaishankar. So External Affairs Minister has made it clear that yes, we need to be in the world. Yes, we need to put our, goals, and yes, we need to listen to others. But that does not mean that we would be subjugated by others. That does not mean we need to do conformity. Conformity means when the US and the entire West wanted that we, we criticize Russia, we do not stand with Russia. We did not do it. When they wanted to become friends with Ukraine, we did not do it. Rather, we have a de-hyphenation policy and we have something called strategic autonomy. A very important statement has been given by External Affairs Minister that strategic autonomy does not mean neutral policy. Neutral policy is something that you are not even bothered about what's, you are sitting outside. I say, I'm not getting into this. We are not neutral. We are getting an oil and gas from Russia. We are talking to Ukraine. We are talking to Americans. Just imagine, we have a very good relation with America to get Predator drones. We have a very good relation with Russia to get S-400. We are now again trying to have a good relationship with China to re-establish trade. And China is the second largest trade partner with India after America. America is $120 billion and China is $118 billion. So if you see, from the pivot of diplomacy, pivot of geopolitical affairs, India is talking to everyone. If you start listening to geopolitical experts all over the world, they will say that India is a very unique country. It's a very pragmatic country which is having relationship with every country in the world, and that too mostly peaceful and diplomatic in nature. And they know India is today talking about India's interest, not Pakistan's or not Bangladesh, not America, not Russia, not Japan, not West, not Europe, not Germany, not any of these countries. India's interests are more paramount, and that is how the countries grow also. This does not mean when I talk about India's interest, we are trying to belittle South Asia and other countries. Our interest means those interests which are good in long term for India's progress. Do you think that what I've just told, that India is working on it? Do you think India is rising in geopolitical affairs? Do you think international affairs we are rising? There's a trend which we can see. Everyone in there around 18-20 people I see right now who have come live in the morning. Please, what do you see? What do you think this is happening? Are we moving ahead? Please put your comments. This is a very important juncture. This is a very important pivot which India is going through. So this is what, so the Jaishankar sir was speaking through a video message at 27th Sai Shri Chandrasekendra Saraswati National Eminent Award. He was given this award for public services and everything. He highlighted India's commitment to independence and unique identity of global arena. He also highlighted that India is focusing on something called Global South. So there is Global North and Global South. So when I say Global North and Global South, it's not geographically, because geographically India and China will be part of Global North. So Global South here basically means the countries which were exploited through imperialism, colonialism. The development did not happen, and they were never part of the good groups like G7, IMF, World Bank, or these groups were never, these countries were never held. They could not grow, and that is why BRICS becomes very important, because it focuses on Global South. India is a very important country when we talk about Global South, how we are taking Global South with us, and we keep talking. So has international relations over a period of time improved? So earlier you had this developing world, developed world, still these terminology was used. You had this first world, second world, third world, then you came developed and developing world. Developed and developing world are still used, but today the most important definitions which are used are Global North and Global South. And India and China and Russia are very important representatives of Global South. Though Russia is obviously coming in the northern hemisphere, but in the terms of taking the Global South countries with them, India is doing a very, very important work, and I'm very sure that it will take many countries forward with this march. Okay. So this is it. So I hope that did you get. So, and the most important statement it was given by him was that India will never allow others to have a veto on its choices and remains resolute in pursuing what is right for the nation, interest and global good. So global good, what is good for global good, what is good for India, what is good for India's interest. We will not allow somebody doing veto over it that you can't do it. Obviously, it basically means the strategic autonomy of India's sovereign decisions, period and full stop. Okay, So India's independence and global independence must not be confused. I've already told you neutrality and strategic autonomy. India will be based on national interest for global good. Minister reaffirmed India cannot be intimidated into aligning with the expectation of others, be it America or West. Yes, we would be listening to you, and if it is legible with what your expectation are and it matches with us also, we'll try to come to a balancing point for both the nation. So world can learn significant from India's heritage. He was talking about how we are addressing modern challenges like unhealthy lifestyle, stressed environment, and he also spoke about the development in India should happen with a lot of Bharatiyata. That is, India's ethos and ethics should be there. Integrated technology with traditional harmoniously. Basically, he wants that we should not be aping entire Western thought process. Good things from Western thought process can be taken, but India's culture, ethos, and the revival which is happening, that should also be taken care by us. So democracy deepens, bringing forward authentic voices that value heritage, traditions, culture, and he's not talking about orthodox culture. He's talking about those tradition culture which defines India as a country, because historical, cultural, ethics have always been part of India. See, there might be many modern nation states, but India is far, far beyond that. When these words came, modern nation state, India is a civilizational country. India is a civilization. We have more than, we are coming from Indus Valley civilization. So from that time today, so modern nation state definitions came very late. But when you talk about the Indus Valley civilization, so our civilization is very old. So India is an exceptional nation because it is a civilization state, not just a modern nation state. We are a modern nation state, but apart from that, a lot of civilization. It's influenced globally on leveraging cultural, historical strengths effectively. Younger generation from understand and appreciate India's rich heritage. If you just talk about India's culture from Swami Vivekananda to Krishnamurti sir, there are so many legend people who have come and spoken about their thought process, and the entire world was listening. These are just few of them which I have mentioned to you, and I hope that you go and read about them, what they say. So in this context, we have given valuable scholar civilization to the entire world over decades and I should say years and centuries. So domestic achievement, so last decade has demonstrated capability, confidence, commitment. So in addressing challenges, poverty, discrimination, lack of opportunities, obviously we are still, country is working on these parameters. Country is still working on those parameters, and with over a period of time, we should move forward. So the nation has advanced across various sectors, showcasing its growing strength. India has established itself as an independent power and obviously taking global south with them, promoting global good. India reinforced position as a reliable and influential global player. So these were certain important statements which were given by him on culture, on global player, on global south, and on India's strategic autonomy, and on conformity, and on the veto power, that no country can use veto power or veto power over our decisions. So these are certain things he spoke about, and the award was given. Now moving forward, so on 6th January 2025, the integrated GS and CSAT program is starting. You can see the Sudeep sir out here and Aditya sir out here. Sudeep sir is faculty of geography and Aditya sir for economics. And rest, you can also scan the QR code, and this course will have modern history, geography, the entire history and art and culture, polity, science and tech, economy, international relations, environment, and all these subjects would be there. And rest, for all details, you can also scan this QR code or the number which I had shared earlier when I was talking about OGB course. You can also call on that number and get all of your details. So let's move to the next important news. Sir, I think India is gaining importance globally through its strong economy, international partnerships, and partnership and visit like Modi trip to Kuwait, global role, and also India wants to veto power. Correct. Yes, recently there was a thing that United Nations Security Council expansion should be there. More countries should be included, Americans were saying, but we will not be giving veto power to the new countries added. So that is like a very, idiotic, or, I find very stupid to, the Americans are still believing, that they are still living in the 1945, that if you're not giving those veto power, what is the, expansion of that group? That is still that, non-permanent members group, becoming part of that only. So the attitude of the Europe and West needs to change. I hope it will change with time. Now let's go to the next important news. That is are Manipur militant using Starlink devices? Now this is a very important news, because this device, because the problem is that when you talk about satellite internet based communication, it does not directly define the borders. Okay, so if it says that the Elon Musk has said that this device does not have the access over India, but India, Myanmar, India, Bangladesh borders are well not defined. So if it is on Bangladesh, or say it is on Myanmar, and the borders are not defined, so certain area of Indian area can also be using the Starlink devices. That is a major problem. So first of all, let's understand what is this device. First of all, this is the device. This is all what you need. Okay, so this is a boat which is somewhere in Brazil. Just this is a device you need. Once you get this device, you are connected to internet, and then you can boom, start working on it. So for conflict zone, disaster areas, this is a perfect device. But this device can also be used, for example, certain times the government, puts a ban on the internet, because internet is being used for chaos, internet is being used for, this radicalization and many other things, for example in Jammu and Kashmir. But people have this, if they have these kind of devices, or terrorists have these kind of devices, there can be a lot of revoke on the society. Okay, so this is how your device works. For example, say this is that device, the last slide which you saw, this is the device which is out here. Okay, say the user terminal, and it is connected to satellite for forward and download link, and this can be used for playing games, and high internet bandwidth can be provided through this Starlink device. And this is the satellites, many of the satellites of the Elon Musk company SpaceX, and this is the ground station. So this is how you will get your internet. It uses Ku band, Ka band, and V band. So a question can also come from the prelims point of view. Now let's understand the gist of it. The spear core of the Indian Army, basically they were on 16 December shared photos on Elon Musk owned X of guns of ammunition, and there was a device which had this Starlink device. Country made mortars that the army and police had seized in Manipur. X users spotted a small satellite device and a router with the later bearing SpaceX logo, and that is why the entire debate started. How can these Manipur militants had these this Starlink device? And you will be surprised to know that this Starlink device was also available on an Indian app, India Mart, to buy. You can buy it from an app, and Starlink devices cannot be sold in India. Starlink is not allowed in India, and it still was being sold on an app. That's the major problem. India strictly regulates and restricts the use of satellite-based communication. International borders are not solid, and it is easy to refine satellite internet coverage to such a precise degree. So that is the major problem. For example, if it is not allowed in India, but since say India and China, there's a problem with borders. India and Bangladesh, say there's a problem in borders. India and Myanmar, obviously there is a lot of porous border. So if it is allowed in Myanmar, so Myanmar, those porous border areas which India claims, or of which Myanmar claims, for example, then it would be allowed there, and these militants can use this. That is the major problem with these satellite-based internet service providers. Okay. Now, first of all, what is a Starlink? Let's understand that. It's a satellite internet service by SpaceX. SpaceX is a Elon Musk company which utilizes low Earth orbit satellites. This is around your more than 550 kilometers around these satellites are placed. So it's a satellite constellation to deliver broadband internet with high speed and low latency. The latency rate is also low, and that means the buffering rate will also be very low, and it's a very high speed. So for movies, gaming, this can be used, and that is why it becomes a threat if the terrorist also gets it. It supports high data rate activities like streaming, gaming, video calls, making it popular in remote areas, disaster zones, and regions under oppressive regimes, because under oppressive regimes, the people and population which want to tell what an oppressive regime is doing. For example, say Bashar al-Assad, or other anyone, or in the past Gaddafi, or for in the past Saddam Hussein, all these, and people want to tell what is happening and how they are being killed. For example, in that prison which was there in Syria. Okay, and what used to happen, butchering used to happen under Bashar al-Assad, and people want to tell, they can use it and tell. So from the point of view of independence, from the point of view of empowering people, it is a very good. But on the same hand, if it gets hand with the, with groups like ISIS or groups like Al-Qaeda, then it's a break threat, or for that matter, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba, or Hizbul Mujahideen. So Starlink satellites orbit Earth at an altitude of approximately 550 kilometers, provide global coverage, but its services are not authorized in all regions. And Elon Musk, when he was criticized that, that your devices were found in Manipur, he has basically said that, that Starlink is not available in India and these all claims are fraud. But if it is, but in Bangladesh and Bhutan, these services would be starting in 2025. And if it is starting in Bangladesh and Bhutan, specifically Bangladesh, in Bangladesh, the current government has become very pro-Pakistan. Most of the extremist groups like Jamaat-e-Islami, all these people are outside. They have the ban which was put by Sheikh Hasina, the ban has gone. And what has been the stand of Muhammad Yunus, the chief advisor? We all can see what he's doing against India, his anti-Indian stand. In this context, the weapons which used to come from Pakistan to when it was East Pakistan, and from East Pakistan it used to go to these insurgent groups in Northeast. That might start again. And with this coming of Starlink and new technology, this can create havoc for our security parameters. Okay. So Starlink is available at an affordable, and will be a huge threat to India's national security. Exactly, that is what I'm trying to say. It will be a huge threat. Okay. So our Manipur militant, so recovery of a Starlink branded satellite antenna and router in Manipur has raised concerns about the use of this satellite internet technology. Elon Musk has definitely denied it. Despite Starlink lack of regulatory approval in India, the problem is that you can still get Starlink devices from outside and put it in India, and if it does not have a geographical router or a link, it will not be able to identify that this is in India or which country. If we are able to cross over this, or if we are able to hack over this, then this device can be used. So these are certain challenges which Elon Musk needs to see, and Starlink over a period of time need to become very transparent with the countries. What is this device and how can we find resolution to this? Okay, so device was reportedly linked to the banned RPF. It's a Methi-based militant group. RPF PLA, a Myanmar-based Methi extremist group. Sri Lanka's coverage map shows that its services are not authorized in India or Myanmar, but in 2025 it will get authorized in Bangladesh and Bhutan. But again, the device can be used, again the geographical router problem or technical issue I'm talking about. So last month 6,000 kg of meth and a Starlink device was seized in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Many of these organized crime, specifically based on drugs, have started using this Starlink device to tell their device to get information, or to have more than information if they want to reroute their this entire meth and drugs consignments. So in August, Starlink equipment was reported sold on platforms. In India Mart, it was being sold on an app, and Starlink is not even allowed in India. When it is not allowed in India, these problems are already happening. When it will be allowed, because Starlink is in talks with the Indian government, and I think later in the coming year, it might get allowed. But obviously, we'll need a lot of transparency. Obviously, it's a very good device. It's a very good device from the point of view of you're sitting in mountains, you want to work there. From the point of view from Northeast and other areas where internet is not available, bandwidth is not available, and internet is very important from education, economy, and every perspective. But at the same time, we also need to make sure that this does not go in wrong hands, and this is what Elon Musk and SpaceX and Starlink need to find out and be very transparent with people. Because this device was also recently being used in Sudan, then he was criticized, and then Starlink devices from Sudan was removed. So again, that's the problem, because once you get this device, you become larger than nations, you become transnational, and you are telling which country will have internet and which country will not have internet. You become more important than the elected government. So this is what we need to also think. So Musk denied this claim, and there was also claim that Russia, the allegation of Starlink sales to Russia, which were also denied. So multiple allegations are coming against Elon Musk. So the satellite coverage, the satellite beams cover large areas and cannot be precisely restricted to specific border. This is exactly I'm talking about. What is the problem? Let me just take you through this. Let's just go to this map and you will understand it much better. For example, this is Kuwait, and in Kuwait it is not allowed, but it is allowed in Saudi Arabia or Iraq. Now there are certain militant based groups out here, and certain area of this Kuwait, Iraq and Kuwait has this problem. Say they have a border dispute. I'm giving a hypothetical example. Now, so it is allowed, the Starlink is allowed in Kuwait, and if they get the device out here, these militant groups, they will get all the internet, and that boundary, the area which is debatable between Kuwait and Iran. For example, this is an area which Kuwait says belongs to it, and no Starlink device should be allowed here. But the militant come here and they are using this device and they are using internet and using every kind of information exchange with the authorities and everything, and they get to know from where Kuwaiti forces are moving and everything, so they can do a big militant attack on Kuwait. I'm taking the example of Kuwait because there's a map of Kuwait today. So I hope this is the problem. Now tell me, India has border issues with Pakistan. India has border issues with China. India also had some issues with Bangladesh, but majorly they were resolved. What will happen with Muhammad Yunus? We don't know. One of its ministers had recently put, or important persons from Bangladeshi government, that we also have dream, we also have courage, and they would tell. In Bangladesh, a recent thought is growing that we will take certain areas of India, we will take certain areas from Northeast, we will fight, we'll wage a war against India and take it. So this is a kind of thought process which is going. Let's come to Myanmar. Myanmar, definitely many of the Meitei and Kuki militant groups, they are based in Myanmar, and there is a certain porous area which is not being defined. Now in this porous area, this Starlink can be used. This is the major problem, because in international arena, certain times the borders, these porous borders, because there is not exact line, okay, after this line it will not work. So how we will work? So India and many other countries will need to work with Starlink to find resolution to these problems. Okay, so use of imported, you can buy it from everywhere. So if the geographical location identifies, you are able to manipulate them, then you can also manipulate with which country you are working. So tackling illegal uses, then there is a problem of shadow companies and fraudulent channels which can obscure the trail of these entire, from where did you get it. And this is a major problem which the Starlink need to find resolution, or Elon Musk need to find a resolution before we start selling it all over the world. Okay. So I hope that you've got, this is a very important news, and India's laws on satellite and communications are very clear. India poses strict restriction on satellite-based communication devices. We also have under Section 6 of India's Wireless Act and Section 20 of India's Telegraph Act, use of unapproved satellites such as Thuraya and Iridium phones is illegal. And in this context, if satellite devices of Starlink are found in India, it's a huge problem. We need to find solution and resolution to this entire problem for this regulatory approval and other things, and it can be definitely be used by many militants. This have already covered. This is a UPSC mains question, you can go through it. And let's come to the important editorial of today, pointing the beacon at India's undersea warfare. Okay, so now the pointing the beacon at India's undersea warfare power. So year 2024 has been decently good for the Indian Defence Forces in terms of getting new weapons. From the point of view of Indian Navy, it has been even much better, from getting the nuclear submarines and also talking about attack nuclear submarines. So we'll talk about this. This is a wonderful editorial written by a very senior retired captain of the Indian Navy. So the year 2024 began, and just to tell you that the captain of Indian Navy rank is much higher than the captain of rank of Indian Army, if somebody is getting confused. Okay, so the year 2024 began with significant operational strides for Indian Navy, including the expansion of operational Sankalp from the Strait of Hormuz to the Red Sea to ensure Red Sea to enforce the safety of merchant shipping against threats like piracy and attack by Houthis, because these attacks by Houthis had increased. October 7, 2023, Israel was attacked by Hamas-based militants. Then the retaliatory measures started by the Israel, and then Hamas, Houthis, which sit in the Yemen, they started attacking all these ships. Hezbollah came, Hamas came, and the retaliatory efforts was done by Israel, and they have demolished the entire Hezbollah. Hezbollah is now in the north of Litani River. Hamas is almost dead. I hope the eventual culmination of that terrorist group definitely happens. But yes, the collateral damage of civilians which has happened, that is something which we need to think about, because many innocent civilians have also killed on both the sides, not only on the Hamas side but also on the Israeli side also. Now this Houthi, which is a terror-based group, they used to attack a lot of these merchant vessels, and because of this entire, the free trade and insurance also went very high. In this time, Indian Navy pitched up, and they have been able to give safety of merchant shipping from Strait of Hormuz to Red Sea, also showing the capabilities of Indian Navy and how we are working on to become a blue water navy. Among the Navy's notable achievement in 2024 was the series of advancement in undersea warfare capabilities from the point of view of nuclear submarines. Okay, from INS Harihant, which we have got, we went to INS Arighat. So nuclear powered ballistic missile submarine INS Arighat in August 2024. And once we got this nuclear submarine, the capabilities of India and Arabian Sea, Indo-Pacific Ocean and Bay of Bengal has increased like anything. And the third nuclear submarine is also it's also in the time. It will definitely get it sooner. The SSBN strengthens nuclear tried that to have that nuclear attack from land, sea and air, and the testing of the K4 missile, which I have covered earlier with a word called dead hand protocol, that even if the operational command is entirely dead in India, the automatic retaliatory system of this K4 ballistic missile, nuclear ballistic missile, can target much of the China. So the successful testing of K4 submarine launched ballistic missile with a range of 3,500 kilometers. Most of China falls under striking range, and the hypersonic capabilities we have. So indigenous content, advanced sonar and acoustic dampening system. So most important is the majority of these weapons which are being made, these are indigenous in nature. India is making it. Yes, certain technologies have been borrowed from outside, but with a period of time, I'm very sure that we would be able to work on those technologies also. Okay, so moving further into this, the Cabinet Committee on Security cleared the Project 77 to give nuclear powered attack submarines. This is more than 40,000 crore rupees. And nuclear attack, these two nuclear powered attack submarines, this is more of for conventional warfare, not for nuclear power warfare. Conventional warfare, they are majorly used. They're very sharp and speedy compared to the other nuclear submarines, the bigger ones, which take a huge amount of time. Those are like mega submarines, which can take care of Pakistan and China single-handedly. These are, these are small, swift submarines for nuclear capabilities. That means they will stay under the water for a very long period of time. The basic difference between a nuclear submarine and diesel submarine is that diesel submarine need to come out of the water for getting oxygen to recharge its batteries every 6 days, 7 days, depending on its capability. Its capability can be increased by AIP, that is air independent propulsions. We are working with the Germans and the Spain. One of these, Spain's Nemantia might be working on this. Pedro Sanchez was in India, if you remember, and that Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor, was also in India. He was talking about small arms and these capabilities. So for AIP, we might be working with these countries to get it so that the capability of diesel engine increases. Because when the diesel submarines, diesel submarines get an AIP, air independent propulsion system, they can stay in a water for a very long period of time. But still with an AIP, they can never match a nuclear submarines. Nuclear submarine for months can stay under the water, and in the context of this warfare, most important thing is that the submarine should not be detected. They should not come in on sonars. And since they are under the ocean, they become a very important second strike capability for a nation. Okay, so this is your Project 77, 40,000 crore. Then you have Project 75. So Project 75 basically became Project 75I. So I stands for India. This project is getting 6 submarines, 6 diesel electric attack submarines with fuel cells and air independent propulsion systems, and 6 here basically the submarines we are talking about, Scorpion class submarines. So 6 Scorpion class submarines INS Vakshir will soon be commissioned under Project 75 collaboration with France. Project 75 only became in time Project 75I. I stands for India. So additional plans include ordering 3 more Scorpion class submarines. We had covered this news, if you remember, with 60% of the submarines would be made in India. So indigenous in nature, which will, with submarine is made in India, many of its parts would be made in India, and obviously a military complex will be created and much of job and employment can come through it. Okay. So moving further into this, focusing on introducing AIP, I've already told you. German contenders are Germany's ThyssenKrupp marine system and Spain's Navantia. Indigenous content expected to range from 45 to 60% over the course of production. So this is very good that we are working on indigenous in India. So that is how it is working. And moving further into this, we are also working on this AMOG, that is the unmanned underwater vehicle with a total budget of around 2,500 crore. Low cost, high return system, and this would be very good for under surveillance and putting mines also, mine laying, surveillance, launching weapons. So many are capabilities in terms of Navy and underwater naval warfare has increased like anything over a period of time. We definitely want, when you have China, which has the largest navy in the world, and Pakistan is also trying to get those 50 fleets with the help of China. Now, challenges is there the budgetary constraint and delays. First is that obviously the budget, we are going for a very long-term project. So if the government changes, will the next government would be continuing with it? Because all this project, when we are talking about those attack submarines, the project would be completed by 2035. So if the government changes or if some other government comes, or if this government remains, will it be consistently giving funds? Because these projects would require a lot amount of funds. So right now it has been promised. So the fund should continue so that these objectives can be achieved through sustained funding. Now, balanced water force, strategic opportunities are there, undersea surface aviation elements, blue water navy capabilities increasing. Geopolitical and maritime cooperation, we are working on Sagar, that is security and growth for all in the region to support a free, open place with these sea lanes of communication in Indo-Pacific. Obviously, the target here is China, because China through its BRI, CPEC and string of pearls strategy tries to block. And since much of its trade, around 80 to 85% passes through Strait of Malacca, which is also known as Malacca dilemma for China. So China want to, the subjugation of what it has done with most of the countries in South China Sea, it wants to do in Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean also, or Indo-Pacific. In these terms, India becomes a very important country to balance it out, and there's a growth for small littoral countries to others. So collaborative efforts would be required. Now coming to MCQ, INS Arihat is India's first nuclear powered, no, INS Arihan. 7.5 AIMS air AIP enabled submarines, okay. India is the only P5 nation operating SSBN, not the only P5 nation, rather we are not a P5 nation. India is the only non-P5 nation, okay. So India is the only non-P5 nation to operate the both SSBNs, that is your nuclear submarines and attack nuclear submarines. Project 75I focuses on AIP enabled submarines. Okay, this is correct. INS Arihan was India's first nuclear, not Arighat. It's the second one. Okay, this is a UPSC mains question. Please write it, a very important one. In the extra mile today, you have what are the new interception rules and safeguards. New interception rules and safeguards. You can go through this, and you can also follow ICANN 2.0 on our YouTube channel. So thank you very much. I hope you did learn something. And I keep saying that please, all of you lovely learners, please get one learner, your friends. And this is how our, our community will grow. So guys, thank you very much. Jai Hind. It was lovely meeting you. Take care and bye-bye.